Some people don't get ignored because they're invisible. They get ignored because they've been too quiet for too long. Ethan had always been there. Not in the way people notice, but in the way people get used to. He was the kind of person who blended into the background. Not because he wanted to, but because no one ever gave him a reason not to. In school he sat in the middle row. Not too close to be seen. Not too far to be forgotten. Just somewhere in between. Teachers rarely called his name. Classmates rarely spoke to him unless they needed something. And slowly, without realizing it, Ethan learned something dangerous. He learned how to be invisible. It wasn't always like that. There was a time he used to raise his hand. A time he used to try. A time he believed his voice mattered. But every time he spoke, someone talked over him. Every time he tried, someone did it better. Every time he showed up, no one noticed. So eventually, he stopped trying. Years passed. Ethan grew older, but nothing really changed. At work he was reliable. Always on time. Always doing what was asked. But never more than that. Not because he couldn't, but because no one expected him to. Meetings would happen around him. Ideas would be shared over him. Decisions would be made without him. And Ethan would sit there, nodding quietly, invisible. One afternoon something happened. Something small. Something most people wouldn't even think twice about. But for Ethan, it meant everything. There was a meeting. An important one. The kind where ideas mattered. The kind where people spoke up. The kind where people were seen. Ethan had prepared for it. For once, he didn't just show up. He stayed up the night before, thinking, writing, planning. He had something to say. Something valuable. Something real. As the meeting began, people started talking. One by one voices filled the room. Confident. Loud. Certain. Ethan waited. He told himself. This time. His heart began to race. His fingers tightened. And then, he raised his hand slightly. But before he could speak, someone else jumped in. Then another. Then laughter filled the room. And just like that, the moment passed. Ethan lowered his hand. Slowly. Quietly. Like he always did. No one noticed. That evening he walked home alone. The city was alive around him. People talking. Cars passing. Life moving forward. But inside him, everything felt still. For the first time in a long time, Ethan felt something different. Not sadness. Not frustration. Something deeper. He felt tired. Not physically, but emotionally. Tired of being overlooked. Tired of being unheard. Tired of shrinking himself to fit into spaces that never made room for him. He stopped walking. Right there on the sidewalk. And for the first time, he asked himself a question he had avoided his entire life. What if the problem isn't them? What if it's me? The thought was uncomfortable, but it stayed. That night Ethan sat in silence. No distractions. No noise. Just him and his thoughts. And slowly, something began to shift. He realized something simple. Something obvious. Something he had never allowed himself to see. People didn't ignore him because he had nothing to offer. They ignored him because he never showed them what he could do. Not because he wasn't capable, but because he had convinced himself that his voice didn't matter. And when you believe that long enough, the world starts to believe it too. The next morning felt different. Nothing around him had changed, but something inside him had. At work, another meeting was scheduled. Another chance. Another moment. This time, Ethan didn't wait. As soon as the conversation started to drift, he spoke. His voice wasn't loud. It wasn't perfect, but it was clear. The room paused, just for a second. And then something unexpected happened. Someone listened. A small response. A simple nod. But it was enough. Ethan continued. And as he spoke, something inside him began to grow. Confidence. Not from validation, but from action. For the first time, he didn't disappear. Days turned into weeks. And slowly, Ethan changed. Not into someone loud. Not into someone different. But into someone who allowed himself to be seen. He spoke more. Shared more. Showed up fully. Some people still ignored him. Some didn't care. But that didn't matter anymore. Because Ethan finally understood something powerful. You don't become visible by waiting for people to notice you. You become visible when you stop hiding. And sometimes, the world doesn't ignore you. You've just been silent for too long. Thank you for watching. If this story spoke to you, take a moment to reflect on it, because sometimes, the smallest lessons can change everything. For more powerful, life-changing stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment. Stay inspired, and take care of yourself.